welcome back to AV Chess Lab. Round 10 of the Opera Euro Rapids, Carlsen versus Nakamura, Battle of the Titans. These two are by far the two best speed chess players in the world, and they're never disappoint. In classical chess, Carlsen is the much superior player, but in faster time controls, Nakamura has proven he can hang with the champ time and time again. So let's jump straight into the game. We have d4 by Magnus, knight to f6, c4, e6, knight to f3, d5, knight c3, and bishop to e7. And we have a queen's gambit decline. Very surprising that Magnus goes for this against Naka, since he's one of the leading experts in this variation. He continues with bishop to f4, castles by Nakamura, a3, and c5. And this is the modern approach to deal with this bishop f4, a3 setup. You try to blast open the center, since white still needs at least two moves to castle his own king. D takes e5, bishop takes e5, and b4 by Magnus. Another surprising move by Carlsen. He loves to play sidelines like this, but this one is just bad. This is the type of move you see at the chess club, but not against a super GM like Nakamura. So let's see how Naka decides to punish him for making this move. He goes bishop to e7, e3, and a5. And this is the problem, that a5 comes right away. Carlsen here took about 3 minutes, and already an indication that he was very uncomfortable with his position. He went c takes d5, knight takes d5, knight takes d5, e takes on d5, and he had to play this move b5. A move you don't want to play, but there's nothing else. And the pawn on b4 was going to drop anyway. But now that the pawn is here on b5, these squares on c5 and a5 are going to be very weak, and black is going to be able to have a really good game. Nakamura continues with knight to d7, bishop to e2, and knight to c5, as we mentioned earlier. Castles, a4 by Nakamura, as he's taking full advantage of Carlsen's opening misfortunes. Carlsen continues with bishop to e5, putting the bishop on the long diagonal, and also serving as a protector on the square of the pawn on a3 in case he needs to. Knight to b3 and rook to a2, otherwise the a3 pawn is doomed. Nakamura continues with bishop to e6, and Magnus goes for knight to d4, nice blockade of the isolated d pawn. Bishop to d6, Carlsen goes for knight takes on e6, pawn takes, and bishop to b2. Magnus retains the bishop pair and hopes he can use them later, but Naka has a good grip here and is the one dictating the action at the moment. Rook to c8 by Nakamura, rooks belong on the open files. Magnus goes for g3, queen to d7, and bishop to d3. Now both of Magnus's bishops are targeting the black king, and this looks very dangerous at the moment. The bishop is attacking g7, this bishop's attacking h7, and this queen is ready to come to h5 and create all kinds of chaos here. Because of that, Nakamura had to play queen to f7, protecting against the infiltration of the queen to h5. e4. And at first sight, this move looks logical, but actually it adds yet another problem for Magnus, since now the bishop can relocate to the square on c5 and put extra pressure here on the pawn on f2, since everything is going to be targeting there. Magnus, on the other hand, has managed to make most of black's pawns weak, and if an endgame is reached, he should be winning. But of course, we're very far from an endgame, so let's see how Nakamura deals with this situation. Bishop to c5 is played, e takes on d5, and e takes on d5. Notice that taking on f2 on the previous move was not possible because after king to g2, then the bishop is going to be pinned, and after a move like queen to e2, you're just going to lose the bishop. Bishop to e5 by Magnus, and this is the engine stop move. And now the rook on a2, which was doing absolutely nothing all game, is an extra protector of the pawn on f2. Rook c to e8, attacking the bishop on e5. The bishop goes to f4, and here Nakamura goes for h6, going for this move g5, trying to kick this bishop back. And once the bishop returns to either d2 or c1, he can finally take on f2. Queen to g4. The threat here is simple, bishop to g6, also preventing the move g5, since after h4 the pawn is going to drop. Nakamura deals with that with rook to e6, protecting against any bishop going to g6, h4 by Magnus, and Naka here plays h5. And white has actually achieved something. There are now a lot more weaknesses around the king to attack with the bishops, but the position is still extremely double-edged and anything can still happen. Magnus returns with queen to d1, rook f6, and Naka is ready to sack the exchange, king to g2, and g6 by Naka. Notice that if rook takes on f4, at this moment it's not possible, but would have guaranteed a draw. G takes f4, knight to d4, rook e1, g6, rook to e3, and after knight to e6, Magnus would have had to sacrifice the exchange back. Otherwise, if this knight actually comes to f4, it would be game over for him. After g6, Magnus goes for bishop to h6, and he's the one in control of the game now, since he's been able to take care of the weaknesses around the black king. Rook to e8, the bishop goes to g5, the other rook goes to the e file to e6, bishop to c2, setting a trap, but bishop b1 was actually better. And Naka goes for this, which almost seems to work, but this is the trap Magnus had set for him. Here Magnus goes for bishop takes on g6. He played this move in less than 1 second. And after about 2 minutes of faces by Nakamura, he threw in the towel, and again Magnus reigns supreme over him. I hope everyone enjoyed this game, and again thank you for watching, and as always, stay safe, have a great day, and show respect to your opponent. See you next time.